Back in the early 2000s, Cisco wasn't just building switches and routers. They were building the future of unified communications. And one of the key components of that was Cisco Unity. Today, we're going to take a trip back in time to look at Unity 4.0, the voicemail and unified messaging system that really tied together the entire Cisco Avid architecture. This was an era when voicemail meant Exchange integration, 32-bit Windows servers, and a desktop add-in for Outlook that would call your phone so that it could play your voicemail message for you. In this video, we're going to install Unity 4.03 just like you might have done in 2005, complete with licensing challenges, dealing with codecs, and a very challenging setup experience overall. Whether you ran a small office voicemail system or a multi-site enterprise deployment, Unity was one of the key elements of Cisco's collaboration stack, bridging telephony and email long before the cloud made it easy. So strap in and join me as we go back to 2005 to install and use Cisco Unity 4.0. Well, if you've ever installed Unity before, you know the first thing that you want to do is start with the installation guide. Now, some things you can just kind of muddle your way through, but Unity is, if you've never done it before, not one of them. So definitely want to check out the installation guide. There's a lot of good information here about what you're going to need to do to set up your virtual machine, kind of the entire process. There's a the setup process itself is pretty convoluted, so you definitely want to follow this and walk through it step by step. So there's an installation section that goes through everything you need to do to kind of get this thing up and running. So let's dive right in. We're going to just start by creating our virtual machine. So we'll just speed run through this again. You've seen this before. So we'll set up our virtual machine here. In this instance, I actually set up 2 disks, although didn't end up using them. So set up the VM, start Windows 2000 Server installing. And we'll just kind of blast through this as quick as possible. Of course, this is the standard Windows 2000 setup. Nothing special here, nothing crazy here. So we'll get this installed and then we can move on to the next step. Nothing particularly eventful. So after setup, do the basics, put in our key, our name, basic network information, time information. We're just going to do typical settings for now. We'll change things after install, set an IP and stuff like that. So just finishing up the installation here for Windows 2000. We'll get our reboot in, and then we need to install VMware tools next. However, before we can do that, there's actually a Microsoft hotfix we have to install first. So we'll install that, throw another reboot in here real quick. And then once this server comes back up, then we can install VMware tools. So get VMware tools on there. That way we can get some tolerable graphics. One more restart here. All right, so now we want to go back to the installation guide, and there's a section on customizing the install. So this part's pretty straightforward. It basically tells us to put in the installation CD. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So we'll mount up that ISO here. Going to disconnect VMware tools first, of course. All right, and then, so I've posted this archive out, all these CDs out on archive.org, and feel free to take a look. You won't need all the CDs. Basically, what we're looking for here is just the first installation CD. I've got a text file here with everything labeled, basically all the text that was on the disks themselves. So you can kind of see what was included as part of this kit, and then you can find the appropriate disk that you need. So this is basically like a pre-installation process. So this is like core operating system components, like your database, MSDE, your SQL Server, all the other things that you need kind of before you actually install Unity. So we'll go in here, and then there is and CUSPA is the folder. You'll go in and run this VBS file. Again, this is all part of the process. So this is the preparation assistant. So what we'll do is we'll set, we're planning on doing unified messaging, and the standard license only gives you 2 ports. So we're going to start with that. That's kind of the default embedded license. So, and of course, straight away we get an error that we need XML3 service pack 1. And then basically this is just a list of all of the prerequisite requirements. So we're just going to walk through this checklist one step at a time. And I've already copied all the files to the hard drive here to C drive /i386 off of the Windows Server 2000 CD. So we just need to fix that here a few times in order to get this particular patch installed. And I'm not going to play the rest of this at real speed. We're going to speed this up and kind of get through this because nothing super crazy about this part. It's just going down the checklist and installing one update after another. So we'll continue on with the next thing as soon as this is done. All right, IIS, almost done. Another reboot, another update. Kind of perusing the installation guide while we're going through this. Just kind of keeping an eye out for what's next. So, okay, so now it's time for our database, which since we're just doing a lab system, just going to use MSDE. So that will install now. Reboot. And then the next thing here, .NET Framework. Now, the next thing we need to do is install the Enterprise Manager for SQL Server. It's not part of the MSDE install, so that has to be installed separately. And then reading through the installation guide reminds me I've got to set my static IP address, so we'll do that now. And then next thing to be done is to join this computer to the domain. We're going to join our Exchange or our Unity server to the domain since we're doing unified messaging with Exchange. So that's one of the requirements there. So log in here, get this added, get another reboot in. And then after SQL Server or MSDE, the next big step is the Exchange tasks we need to do. So for Exchange 2003, we need to install the management tools. They need to be available on the Unity server. There's SDKs and stuff that install as part of that we need. So we'll mount the Exchange 2003 ISO. We'll run through the setup here. We have to switch it from typical to a custom install. And then obviously we don't want to install Exchange itself. We just want the system management tools. So we will install those. And that of course takes just a moment here since we'll speed things way up. And another reboot is required because why not? Then the next task we need to do is to extend the Active Directory schema for Cisco Unity. So Cisco Unity requires some additional Active Directory attributes, and Cisco's provided a utility to extend the schema to accommodate those. So we'll switch to our domain controller. We'll mount the Unity CD that we need here that's referenced in the installation documentation. And then we will navigate to the correct folder, which again is here in the installation guide. So that's the AD schema setup folder. We'll run AD schema setup. We'll pick our language, and we want the first option there, the directory master for Exchange 2003. And then this script gets loaded in and sets up the schema that we need. And then we are done with this part. We should be done with the domain controller for now. So we'll continue on to the next section, which is creating the required accounts for Unity installation. And there's actually 5 referenced here. There's four that will apply to us with Exchange 2003. One of them is for Exchange 5.5, which is not what I'm using. So we'll create these 4 accounts, and then we can proceed from there. The first one's Unity install. This is the account that you use to actually perform the Unity installation. It's just a local administrator account. Unity admin's the one you would use just in your kind of day-to-day administration of Unity. Then there's the Unity directory services login sync account, and then there's the message store service account. So those are just different accounts that are used for kind of different exchange related things. And then there's some additional things we need to do. We need to add these accounts to the local administrator groups. So we'll go ahead and go into computer management to local groups. We'll go to our administrators group, and then we will locate these domain accounts. And later, I think I add all of them. I had some problems. I don't know if I misread the guide or what happened there, but I think I ended up adding all of those Unity accounts to local admins. I don't remember if I missed that in the guide or if that was just some kind of weird quirk, but ultimately that's what had to happen. Um, And then now we are going to do some additional things here. We will need to run the permissions wizard soon. That'll be one of the next steps. So is that what we're doing now? Let's take a look here. Yeah, the permissions wizard is next. Again, we set Exchange 2003 for that. And then we're going to just double check all of our accounts. We pick them all out of the list here. They've all been created. We just have to select them one by one. We're going to verify kind of our AD schema. In this case, we're just using a lot of the defaults. Users is fine. I'm not dealing with a bunch of distribution lists or anything like that. Okay, we're just going to take those. Default locations is fine. Active Directory users, that's fine. Mailboxes, again, we shouldn't really need to change anything here. There's nothing crazy in this setup. It's not like we've got a full-blown enterprise deployment here. So a lot of these defaults work just fine for us. So we have now completed that, which is good news. And there's one more step here that we need to do. We need to actually set some exchange permissions as well. So we'll go in, delegate control, and again, there's a couple of the accounts that we need to set for that. I think it's both the Unity directory services and the message services. We just have to give them exchange administrator permissions. And then that should wrap up what we need from a permissions and accounts perspective. And it should be time to finally install Unity. So we'll switch to the Unity guide here again, the installation guide. Now, I did not start with SSL from the beginning. That was a big mistake. If you're doing this, just plan for SSL to start with. It's self-signed, it's simple. So we will start the setup, the Unity setup finally, and it's going to remind us immediately that we should be using the Unity install account. So we'll log out of administrator, we'll switch to Unity install, and then that will actually kick us right back into setup again. So that makes it simple. Then we'll start the setup here, and it's going to immediately tell us that we have to have a hotfix installed in order to run setup. So I'm trying to find that. I checked the Unity install CDs. It's actually not there, so I had to download that and throw it into an ISO, and then drop that in my folder, set the ISO, installed the hotfix, and then we are going to restart because you always have to restart for everything, no matter what. All right, we log back in to Unity install. Make sure to remount the media because we're going to need that. Now, it is going to take us where we put some basic information. So I'll set my company, Pinnacle DataWorks. We're going to use G711. We don't have any hardware we're going to be installing. We want the US language. We're just going to accept the defaults for key mapping. We're not really too concerned about that. And then we are going to run through install. Now, during install, I hit this error message. And after playing around, I figured out that my ISO dump didn't work correctly for some reason. So I ended up having to finagle this, work around these errors. I did redump these CDs. I've re-uploaded them to archive.org. So if you're trying this in the future, you shouldn't run into this. But anyway, this was just something I ran in. Another one of the things that I ran into in the process. All right, and you'll see that we hit that error with several more cab files here. For whatever reason, these language files, several of them didn't dump correctly from the ISO. So work through that on my system. Like I said, I did fix this dump. So if you download this, you shouldn't run into this problem anyway. So get through this copying process. At some point, it's going to ask us, there it is for disk number 2. So we will get that mounted, get that started, and it will do its thing. And then it's going to ask us for disk 1 again. So we'll switch back, and then it will go back, finish this process. We'll speed this up quite a bit here, try and get through this. This is obviously not the interesting part, so get through this as quickly as possible. And going through some final configuration steps here, importing some stuff into the database. And then we're done. It's time for a restart. So we'll do that. Back from our restart here, and we're on to the next step, which is license files. Now, Unity includes a demo license file. It gives you like 10 mailboxes. So we're just going to start with that. And then we need to set up some more services accounts here. So mapping those out. And then the next step is going to be the message store. So basically give Unity the information it needs to be able to connect with Exchange. So we'll go ahead and set that up. Should be a pretty quick process here. And we're going to allow it to create new accounts inside of Unity. So we'll do that, and then we're on to the next one, which is the phone system integration. So this one is going to be fun. So we'll put in the IP address of our CallManager 4 system here, and we're going to go and double check what we need on the CallManager side. So we're going to set up some partitions here, and this is straight from the uh, integration guide. So we're going to basically set this up just as what is recommended there in the guide. So this involves creating a couple of new partitions. We'll create a new voicemail calling search space. Um, we're going to add those restricted partitions there as well. And then we are going to go and add some more. We're going to add the voicemail partitions to the regular calling search space as well so that the phones can reach it. And then the guide recommends creating a new device pool. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And then we are going to go and start the voicemail port wizard. So since we're on a demo license, we just need 2 ports. We'll give this a name. We'll use the newly created device pool, the newly created calling search space. We'll leave some of those just default. And then we need to assign directory numbers to each of these voicemail ports. So real quick, we're just going to double check what's available, go into the route plan report, and kind of see what we've got. I had tried to create this manually. I went ahead and undid some of that so we can use the wizard here. So we'll set the partition, the CSS, and the guide recommends to not do that last part. So we're just going to continue following the guide here. And then the next step would be then to create the line group, the route group, route list. I don't remember. Anyway, the guide has this all. So we got the line group, and then it'll be the hunt list. We actually create 2 line groups, one for inbound and one for outbound. All right, so the DNs have been added to the line groups. Now we create the hunt list next. So this is just for the answering ports, and we set the call manager group, and then we'll add the line groups that we just created. So we'll add the answering ports line group, and then we'll insert that, and then we should be ready to move on to the next thing here. So just confirming with the guide kind of the order of everything. So now we'll add a hunt pilot. So this will be the number that the phone dials to access voicemail. So we'll just set up the pilot configuration here. So we'll give it a name, description. We'll set the hunt list that we just created. And then the next thing we do is we actually establish the uh, message waiting indicator number. So the MWI on and MWI off extensions. So we'll just match those up from Unity to CallManager here. And then we're going to put those in the just my basic extension partition is where I'm going to put those. And so we did on, now here's off, and save that. And then the next thing we want to do is we're going to go ahead and create our voicemail pilot, which will be the same thing as our hunt pilot. So we just want to match those up. That's how the phones know what to dial when you press the voicemail key on them. Okay. Now, just go through here, and now we set up the voicemail profile. And again, this will help the phones know how to access voicemail when you use that voicemail key. So we'll set this as the default voicemail profile because there's no other voicemail in the system. And then the guide instructs us to double check a couple of service parameters. So all my service parameters are default. I do go in and verify just to make sure and confirm that they are set as the guide recommends. So just a quick confirmation there. Then we'll move on to the next step in the guide here. Next up, we are going to just test our configuration, Unity, and Unity says that it is okay. Now we'll set our trunk access codes. Basically, what do you dial to get outside? So 9 in our case. And we get an error there, basically an app crash, so that's cool. So we're going to end up having to reboot our system here. So we'll just have to hope for the best. I just double checked time to make sure there wasn't something weird going on there. Um, And yeah, it prompts us to reboot, so fingers crossed, hopefully everything's okay. And we'll just see what happens after our reboot. Now, this is the part of the process where we get to the whole SSL situation. So there were some pre-steps that I believe I should have already done and didn't. And so now at this point, deciding to use SSL, and I don't know if this would have been easier had I done this in the correct order. This process was very unclear. So basically, we go and we set up SSL for the default website, and we have to do the cert process. But since I didn't install the certificate server, we can't complete this process. So now we have to backtrack a little bit, and this there is where I'm remembering that, hey, I didn't actually set up the certificate server. So we'll go back in the guide here a little bit to where that step was, and just refresh ourselves on the process. So basically, it's telling us to go in and set up certificate services. So we'll set up certificate services, and we're just going to set this as a standalone CA. We're going to fill out our information here, and this is used for certificate stuff. And we're going to do 10-year certs, doesn't really matter. This is my lab box, so whatever. And we will install Microsoft Certificate Services. Now, again, just going through this, confirming what to do next. So we saved a cert request file. We will load that, and then we have to go in here. We see the pending cert. We approve it. We confirm that it looks good, and then we export it because we'll need to use it elsewhere. So we're just going to call that Unity cert. We're going to save it in C drive, the root, and then we can easily get to it later. Okay, so now I'm trying to figure out how to go back in and properly set up certificate services, because now that the wizard's done, it wants to start over. So since the wizard wants to start over at this point, I think I'm stuck doing the manual process, which is a real pain. So basically, we have to go into a bunch of these sites and set them for SSL and just do a bunch of manual steps that I think we could have avoided had I done things in the right order. And even after going through this process, I'm still actually not sure if I did everything I needed to do, because I still get SSL errors in the Unity interface, um, which I can't remember. Maybe that's always the way it's been using self-signed certs. I can't recall for sure. Um, anyway, we're just going to try and follow the manual process here as best as possible. Again, it takes you a lot of steps. Here we have to then distribute the cert to all the local clients. So we load up the local policy, we select the right domain object, we discover that I don't have access to do what I'm trying to do. I think I probably didn't give the right permissions for Unity install to be able to do this. Anyway, I just trying to muddle through this the best I can. So here we are editing the local policy, adding the cert, basically to make sure that it gets distributed to all domain computers. And then we have to go back to our process of continuing through the manual setup of SSL. So now we need to do something else. What are we doing here? Oh, now it's the Unity SR. So basically our service release, our patch for Unity that's distributed as part of the media. So we're going to run through that, and then we'll see what's next in the guide after we install the service release. Okay, so we'll speed up the restart here. We'll log back in, and then the most amazing thing ever happens. It says, hey, the patch has been installed correctly. Restart again. So now we have to wait for another reboot. Okay, so coming back from reboot like 587, since I started the install again, I had to go clean that up out of startup, and now we've got some Microsoft patches to do. So we're just going to walk through the folder of Microsoft patches and do those one at a time, and we'll just kind of rush through those here, and then we'll move on to the next step. And of course, the new step is obviously a reboot, so we'll do that. And then going to get back into IIS and continue with these PCA SSL steps. So again, there's a bunch of directories that going in and trying to get it set up correctly for SSL, and hopefully we can get all these manual steps done to get this working. So we'll see here when we go into the Unity interface, we do get that uh, SSL error. And so I'm not sure that's something we're really going to be able to do anything about. Again, I don't, that may be something that was just always an attribute of Unity. I can't remember. But we've kind of done all we can for now. So again, I'm just kind of finishing going through the guide here to see if there's anything left to do. But I think that pretty much wraps it up at this point for actually the Unity install process. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is let's see if we can get our imaginary user, Bob Johnson, here set up. So we're going to go to his VM. We're going to see, go to Unity, and it's going to tell us, oh yeah, it's not a Unity subscriber. Obviously, I haven't added him yet. So we're going to go to subscribers, add a new user. We're going to search our directory for Bob and import him. And then at this point, I forget what his extension is. So I'm going to jump over to CallManager. We're going to go look at our phones, and this is his phone here. It looks like it's 1002. We're gonna rename this to make it a little easier to remember in the future what his phone is as well. So put his name and his extension right there in the description. And then we're gonna go back to Unity and we're gonna set his extension there, 1002. We're gonna add that subscriber. Now, when we switch back to his machine here, we should be able to at least get something. Yeah, class of service prohibits you, so that means Unity now knows who he is. So that's a good sign. That's a positive. That's a step in the right direction anyway. So now we need to set his phone, his line to actually go to voicemail. So we're going to check all these boxes. One thing I forgot here, I had his phone set to auto answer, so I don't capture that, but later I turn that off so that his calls can actually go to voicemail, and then we'll reset his phone, and then we are ready to test. Okay, so now we're going to pull up a soft phone that we've set up for Bob Johnson, and we're going to dial into Unity and set up our mailbox, and then we will do some tests after that.
Please enter your password. Welcome to Cisco Unity. To get the most from Unity, take a moment to personalize or update your settings. To exit, press star. A recorded name identifies you to other callers. It also lets others know who left a message. You have no recorded name. To keep the current recorded name, press pound. To record a new name, callers cannot reach you. They may leave a message. A personal greeting encourages callers to leave a message. Your standard greeting is, sorry, extension 1002 is not available. To re-record this greeting, press 1. To keep it and continue, press pound. A password protects the privacy of your messages. Your password must be at least 3 digits long. Use a password that is easy to remember, but hard for others to guess. For extra security, you may occasionally be asked to change your password. Enter your new password, then press pound. For help, press 0. Enter your new password again to confirm it, then press. Your new password is active. You may be listed in the system's directory so that callers can reach you even if they do not know your extension. You are listed in Directory Assistance. To change your listing status, press 1. For help, press 0. To continue, press pound. Thank you. You have finished enrollment. Extension 1002. Hello. You have no new messages. To send a message, press 2. You have no old messages. For setup options, press 4. For help, press 0. To exit, press star. Hello. Cisco Unity.
Okay, so that part is done. So now we're going to have a little demo. I'm going to dial into Bob Johnson's extension and leave a voicemail, and then show that it is working from a unified messaging perspective, showing up in his Outlook. So let's do that real quick, and we'll make sure that's working. Okay, so for this demo, I added a second line to this soft phone, so we'll just call from that second line to Bob Johnson's main line, and then we'll kind of go from there.
extension 1002 is busy or does not answer. You may record your message at the tone. When you are finished, you may hang up or hold for more options.
Hey, Bob, I need you to give me a call back. Thanks. Okay, so we see there that the MWI lights up as expected. And so now we just need to send receive in Outlook here to get that new message. And it's responding a little slowly, but we'll could be a little bit patient here and it'll show up. So it's thinking about it. The new mail icon is down in the taskbar. Just waiting for Outlook to catch up, and there we go. Now, the way this should work is when you click this play button, it should call your phone and play the voicemail message for you. However, nothing plays when I do this, so not exactly sure. I haven't quite figured out what's wrong here yet. But yeah, anytime I try and play this message through the phone, it
Please
fails.
enter your password.
So
Extension 1002. Hello. You have no new messages. You have 4 saved messages.
now it's not new because I already checked it in Outlook.
To review old messages, press 3. For setup options, press. For saved messages, press 1. Saved messages. Message 1.
Hey, Bob, I need you to give me a call back. Thanks.
Sent today at 8.
So there's our test message.
To repeat the message, press 1. To save it, press 2.
Okay, so there we have it. Unity is installed and working. Basic voicemail is tested. We've confirmed that a user can leave a voicemail, confirmed that we can check the voicemail, MWI is working, the message shows up in our Outlook inbox, so unified messaging is working correctly. So that's really all the basics. There's a lot of other things we can go into here in Unity. We can talk a little bit about licensing. I've got some actual licenses that we can go through. We can do things with like call handlers. There's a number of other things we could look at here in Unity. So I'm not quite sure yet what I'm going to do next episode. Might dig a little deeper in Unity, might move on to IPCC. Could do some more stuff with older versions of CallManager. If you have something you want to see me do, just let me know down in the comments. And yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you next time for the next video. But until then, this is Josh, and thank you for watching Tech Tides.